You're listening to the LA Football Podcast.
Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome to the LA Football Show here on the LA Football Network. We are live on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. I'm your co-host, Ryan Dyer, joined as always by the great madman, Jamal Madney, coming at you on a Friday. This is your RamsHouse edition, Rams segment of the show. So excited to get into some Los Angeles Rams talk. But brother, happy Friday. How you doing?
Happy Friday, Rye. Excited to be at the end of the week and so much going on with LA football. Excited to get into it. This is our second to last Friday. Actually, it's our last Friday before the draft. So lots to sort of be excited about because, next week, lots will change with our two LA teams as well as with the landscape of so many in the NFL.
Exactly. For the Rams specifically, we are basically at this exact time, almost exactly 7 days from, they will be picking, obviously not having a first round pick. So nothing they'll do it on Thursday unless they trade up, which they never do. So the Rams will be drafting almost exactly 7 days from this point.
Well, that's not true, Ryan, and we'll get into it about trading up, so.
Well, yes, into the first.
Trade up.
They did. Show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. NBA playoffs, hockey playoffs, baseball's off and going. You got F1, you got NASCAR, you got the NFL draft a week away. Plenty to bet on, plenty to win money on, and might as well get some free money while you're at it. BetOnline.ag, promo code BELIEVE. Tell them the guys at the LA Football Network sent you. So, main topic of discussion, the Rams, as was known for quite some time, have traded Allen Robinson to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The official terms of the deal is Allen Robinson and the 251st overall pick, which is a 7th rounder, for the Steelers' 234th overall pick. So they move up 17 spots. They still had to pay $10.5 million of Robinson's salary, and they convinced the Steelers to pay the remaining 5. So they save 5, move up 17 spots in the 7th round, and Allen Robinson is no longer a Ram in what was a very short-lived career in Los Angeles. I would say unmemorable, but it was in a way memorable based on the signing, based on the expectations, based on now the very non-exciting removal, if you will. So thoughts, Jamal, overall? We knew it was coming, but overall on the compensation and what they got, are you surprised or was this what was expected?
No, Ryan, not surprised at all. Ironically enough, you and I kind of had a conversation earlier in the week on was there even a plausible scenario where Allen Robinson could stay a Ram? And we said, well, the only plausible scenario would be if he was a seamless fit early in camp and was willing to be a wide receiver 3 or 4, but that was going to be a stretch given his expectations as well as the price of his contract. So this is something we've been waiting on for a couple of months now and not surprised at all. And I think you and I also knew, given how bare the wide receiver market was in free agency, that it was going to be tough to get any significant value back for Allen Robinson if the Jalen Ramsey compensation was any sort of an indicator or an anchor, and that clearly was the case. You mentioned the $5 million in savings. You mentioned going up 17 spots. But if you zoom out, it's essentially the headline, Allen Robinson and a 7th rounder for a 7th rounder. So by the principle of subtraction and math, that means it was Allen Robinson for nothing. This was a clear salary dump and also kind of demonstrated what the Rams thought about Allen Robinson's tenure over the last 12 months.
Yeah, it's, we knew it was coming. And I think when you come to terms with this Allen Robinson most likely was not going to be on this team. And we talked, like you said, last episode about maybe there was a shot to be back just because they would get nothing for him. And why cut a guy when you're going to be paying a hefty part of it anyway? They had already paid him $5 million due to, roster bonuses and stuff like that. And cutting him would have just taken on more dead money and whatnot. So I was like, why not keep him on the roster, see if we can get some value out of him and then move on the next year. But this, what does this really tell you, Jamal? Does this tell you they either just did not believe he added any value to the receiver room? I mean, we've heard nothing about anything like bad off the field or any like locker room issues, or so I definitely don't want to even assume that anything happened because we've never heard even a pipe of that. So I don't know if there was just such a bad fit that they just had a bad taste in their mouth. They made a mistake and wanted to move on, because the strange thing to me when I started really looking into it after the trade, because beforehand, like I said, I accepted it. It was what it was. You just take your losses and move on. But then when you really look at it and you're like, okay, they still are paying $10.5 million for him just to move him. Now he's not on the roster. And next season, his guarantees were all done. So they could have theoretically just paid him the extra $5 million, kept him and played this year, and then cut him next year. And basically, I mean, maybe there was some cap indications, but in terms of guaranteed money, he was owed $0 next year. So that was where it was a little confusing, where I was like, I mean, what are you really saving here? You're not making any big staves at strides. So was it truly we really just want to see what Jefferson, what Tutu Atwell, what Ben Skowronek, what these guys can do? And so why have a guy like Allen Robinson taking reps from those guys? I mean, what do you see when you kind of pull the lens back of why they truly wanted to move on so badly?
Yeah, I think, Ryan, it's a great point. I think that they are a team right now. The Rams remind me of, the child when a young child is sick with the flu or the fever or, just a cold. And as a parent, you're trying to give your child just sort of all the medicine in one shot, and they're sort of reluctant to eat it, and they're reluctant to sort of slurp it. And, you're doing whatever you can to just in one shot give all of the medicine that's possible to sort of do this in one go. And it really feels like that's how the Rams are approaching their salary cap situation, and more importantly, their dead money situation. Right now, they are $73 million in dead money allocations. And so $73 million is actually worth more than two teams in the NFL have spent on their entire defense. So to the Rams, they want to essentially pay the tax. They want to pay the tax this year, take their medicine, and then be in a position where next year they're $60 million under the cap. So to them, even finding $4, $5, $6 million here, a couple $100K there, a couple million in another part, I think they want to just be in a position where they're completely free and clear going into next season. And I think that's what this Allen Robinson situation has provided. Is it a little bit myopic in the thinking? Yes. But I think that given what Van Jefferson is capable of, what, this is the perfect test drive year for Tutu Atwell. This is sort of the make or break year. He's either an NFL player or he's not. And so this is the perfect opportunity to find that out. Perfect opportunity for Benny Skro to kind of step up and as a known commodity and see what you have there. So let's give all these guys the touches. Even though it's only $5 million in savings, just having him on the roster, there's an opportunity cost there of not being able to evaluate the guys that you want to see potentially could be long-term solutions over the course of this transient remodel that we've been calling it. So I think when I zoom back and I look at it in that way, it makes sense. But could they have been in a position to bring him back and be a little bit more, I don't want to say competitive, but a little bit more deep at the receiver room? Sure. But I think they're really looking at this year as an evaluation year. Now, you and I both believe that even though this is the primary focus here as an evaluation year, I think given the state of the NFC West, given the state of their three core pillars, there's still an opportunity here to be an 8-9, 9-8, 10-7 team and get in to the playoffs and sort of threaten for the division, even in this type of transition phase. And I think that's really where the focus is.
If we use the analogy of dating in the real world, Les Snead, he may not be marriage material we've seen at this point, but what he does do well is not wasting time on a dead relationship. And he kind of is very good at saying like, all right, I don't see a future with you, so why waste time? And that's what this Allen Robinson feels like. There was no way in chance that Allen Robinson was going to be on this roster in 2024. So what I just said a little bit ago, thinking, well, why not just utilize him this year? And you can, you're really not saving much money. Why not, get him and see if he kind of helps your team, an extra win or there, or some more touchdowns or whatever it may be. But he knows this guy's not future of the team. If I'm dating someone and I know there's no future with you and no potential of marriage, I don't want to meet your parents. There's no chance that they're going to be my in-laws. So why don't we just, wash our hands of it? We had a good run or a bad run, but we gave it a go. We gave it the old college try, and let's just move on. So I think he's been good at that over his tenure of just saying, well, it either did work or didn't work, but we're not wasting any more time. Let's move on. And then it gives, like you mentioned, Jamal, the great chance for them to see if there is marriage potential in Benny Skro and Van Jefferson and Tutu Atwell, and who is going to be these young guys that are going to play alongside Cooper Kupp for the long term and going after another ring, another run. Plus, you have those 11 draft picks where they're going to be bringing guys in, and obviously he needs to draft well, but you also want to see those guys are going to get quite a bit of playing time. And if any of those are receivers, you want to see them out there. So, going into that 24 season, when you're kind of pushing all the chips back in, what are the positions you really need to address in next year's offseason when you're going to have 65, 70 million in cap space, when you're going to have a first round draft pick. And now, because of all the evaluation you did in 2023 that, okay, we need a wide receiver too, because we don't have that on the roster, but you knew now Allen Robinson wasn't going to be wide receiver 2 in 2024. So when you look at it like that, then it does make a lot more sense.
No, for sure, Ryan. Oh my goodness. I love the dating analogy. It was just spot on. But the other element of the dating analogy that I think was really appropriate is how quickly things change. I mean, think about where we were 12 months ago with Les Snead. And today, you just called him not marriage material. Last year on this network, we were ready to sort of marry Les Snead, even if he was married to other people, even if he had another family. I think most folks in sort of the Ramily were ready to make Les Snead family, given the string of success that he had. And it just kind of shows how quickly things change over the course of 12 months. And I guess a 5-12 season will do that for you. But I still think that I actually am sort of very much in a different camp where I think that Les Snead has had maybe the best GMing offseason that he's ever had. Because I think this is what really requires thought. This really requires conviction. This really requires clarity. There's a lot of things that he's doing right now that is courageous leadership, frankly. And they're not popular decisions. But for the longevity of the team, I fully agree that this is the right thing to do. Going all in, albeit is bold, it's revolutionary to a certain extent. It's a blueprint that was done in other sports. Jerry Buss was famous for going all in. George Steinbrenner was famous for going all in. Mark Cuban has gone all in. Lots of different owners in different sports have sort of gone all in and said, hey, we're going to trade our draft picks for stars. So granted, it takes a lot of execution and bringing people together and resources to be able to do it. But I don't know if it requires the same level of strategy as what Les Snead is trying to do right now. And granted, it's going to be different results on the field, and that makes fans very impatient. But I actually think that Les Snead, through all of his different dating experiences, is actually going to find, and rediscover his sort of marriage self and be set up for another 20-year marriage as one of the most eligible folks in this dating analogy in the NFL.
Yeah. And so just to be clear, when I say not marriage material, I mean because he moves on very quickly. So, he's not going to put in the work to salvage the relationship. He's going to say, next, I'm moving on. He himself is still marriage material, but he's not looking for the marriage.
Sure. No, absolutely. but I mean, even him and I think what we're saying is Les Snead the GM, the decision maker from this analogy. But I mean, the man could do no wrong last year. He walked on water. There were puzzling decisions that most of the NFL community just sort of brushed aside because, hey, it's Les Snead and he's riding a heater. He's on such a hot streak. And now he's getting, back down to earth in terms of kind of that scrutiny. So it's just fascinating to see how quickly things change in a 12-month period.
Well, let's get into Les Snead a little bit then, because I do agree with based on where this team was at and looking towards the future, this is something that this whole purge, if you will, of the 2023 offseason is something that kind of needed to happen. You just had to swallow it, take it on the chin, and then see what you can do and keep your core intact, which they have. And, the defense obviously is going to need a very strong draft class to make it competitive. And the offense is going to have to be a 30 point per game type offense to keep this team, above water. But if there's one thing, because I think overall we both agree that Les Snead has been, during his tenure, at least since they've been in Los Angeles, one of the top GMs of football. I mean, anytime you get a Super Bowl, you got to at least be in that echelon. Anytime you have, this is the first losing season they've had, since Sean McVay was hired, only the second missed playoff. So it definitely, and they've looked very different every single year. It's not like they've just rode the same roster. They've looked very different, and they've addressed different needs and built the team with different strategies and whatnot. But if there's one thing, and disagree, please, if you do, but I think if there's one thing that he hasn't done great is when the decision comes to move on. And I don't know if this is, they just don't have a tight lip ship in the franchise. Like, stuff just gets leaked very easily, but it seems like anytime they're ready to move on, the entire world knows about it. And that just automatically drives the value down to that player, because everyone knows, like, well, we'll just wait, because if anything, they're going to cut him, or we can trade them for nothing. And I think we both agreed, Jalen Ramsey in specific, just that market wasn't going to dictate much. It didn't help that everyone knew that the Rams were probably ready to move on. Allen Robinson, the wide receiver market has been super dry, but everyone knew they were going to move on. Leonard Floyd, who's still currently a free agent, but everyone knew they're going to move on. So there was absolutely no trade talks there. And so that's been the one thing, is you trade a lot of capital to get players, but then when you're moving players, you're basically just dumping them for absolutely nothing. And part of that's just because everyone knows you're ready to move on. And so you have no leverage. That's the one thing I've seen in Snead's tenure that hasn't been great, opposed to those other things.
No, completely agree, Ryan. And, the whole principle of negotiation is you want to keep your bargaining position as strong as possible and as hidden as possible, because that allows you to get leverage. And so I think in that regard, I don't know if that's a Les Snead problem, or that is people underneath him or people around the Rams organization that just like to talk and feed the press. Because sometimes it's a quid pro quo relationship with certain members of the press. If you give them some stories, you give them some inside scoop, then, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt on some things, and they're going to, have your back on certain things. And so, that game could be going on. I have no inside knowledge of that, but oftentimes that is the case. And the one thing else I will say, not necessarily in Les Snead's defense, but I'm not sure there was a ton of value for any of these players that we mentioned. A lot of these players that we talked about, Ramsey included, Allen Robinson, Leonard Floyd, Cam Akers, all of these guys are sort of on the decline, in terms of either perception or productivity. No one thinks of any of those four guys as guys on the rise, and there's a hunger to go get those guys. And I think that is the one thing in the NFL that I think the whole NFL is very susceptible to, is they care more about the trend than the productivity sometimes. Because it's like, okay, I have this number of sacks and this number of tackles and this number of TFLs, or on the offensive side, this many amount of yards. But what's the trend? If that trend is still going upward, or at least it's flat, I know what I'm getting. And I'm either getting a bargain, or I know I'm getting something for fair value. But when that trend starts going in the negative direction, how do you even price that, right? Because it's dwindling. Now, how far is it going to dwindle? You don't really know that. It's going to get steeper as the player gets older, but how much steeper? And so I just think the NFL is so sensitive, and rightfully so, because of the nature of the game and injuries, that once a player starts falling, the market just gets so cold so quickly. And I think Les Snead is probably looking at it as, well, that's kind of the behavior of the league. So why should I hide it? And if it's something where I'm not even getting a ton of value for the player, and I can maybe get some points with the press and build a relationship there, hey, that actually might be worth that sort of a trade of leaking some things for kind of the press relationship.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, and then we're out of time. I got to take a break, but and again, you can call this Les Snead's fault, or you can just call it the state of the Rams' success. And teams know too, like, okay, the Rams are buying, they're going all in. We're going to drive the price up, right? Like they wanted Matthew Stafford. Team's not going to like just give them Matthew Stafford. They're going for a Super Bowl run. Von Miller, mid-season trade. Von Miller, the last year of his deal. He was a Bronco legend, but everyone knew the Rams were going all in. They would give up almost anything to get that player, to give them over the hump of that. Well, now they're in a seller's market. And so the teams know, well, they're selling everybody. Why am I going to give them what they want? I'm going to just sit here on my hands and wait till they either release them or come begging me to take them for something. So a lot of it is as simple economics. And you can hate it. You can say Les Snead's getting jobbed here, but in reality, that's just kind of the economics of where they're at as a franchise currently, where they've been when they've been buyers. And that's kind of how the game's played, especially with how Les Snead plays the hands he's been dealt. So but that's all the time we got for the Rams talk. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts. You can text RamsHouse to 31032. At LAFB Jams is Jamal's Twitter. At Ryan Dyer LAFB is my Twitter. Taking a quick break, and we'll be back with more LA football talk on radio, podcast. We'll see you guys all next week.
You're listening to the LA Football Podcast.